There is a certain kind of woman men are drawn to, especially as they grow older themselves. And it has very little to do with age on paper. It's not about wrinkles or youth. It's not about trying to look younger than you are. In fact, the more a woman tries to compete with youth, the more invisible she becomes to the kind of men who actually matter. Because what men are responding to is not age. They are responding to vibe, a calm authority, a grounded presence, a woman who is not performing femininity but embodying it. Older women who attract men effortlessly are not loud. They don't over-explain themselves. They don't chase validation, and they don't audition for attention. They don't need to convince anyone of their worth because they already live as if it's a given. And men feel that immediately. See, when men are younger, they are often drawn to novelty, excitement, chaos even. But as men mature, something shifts. They become tired of emotional volatility. They become exhausted by games. They start craving peace, depth, and emotional safety, but without losing attraction. That's where this woman enters. She has this energy that says, I am at ease with myself. And that ease is intoxicating. She doesn't rush conversations. She doesn't rush intimacy. She doesn't rush connections. She allows things to unfold. And that patience creates tension because men are used to women leaning forward, trying to secure, trying to define, trying to lock things in. When a woman is relaxed in her timeline, men lean forward instead. This vibe is rooted in self-respect, not arrogance. She knows her boundaries and doesn't announce them. She enforces them quietly. If something doesn't align, she steps back instead of arguing, and that restraint makes her feel emotionally expensive. Men are drawn to women who feel like they cannot be easily accessed, not because she's cold, but because she is selective. She doesn't overshare her wounds. She doesn't trauma bond. She doesn't make her pain her personality. She has processed her experiences, not packaged them for sympathy. That emotional maturity shows up in how she listens, how she responds, how she disagrees without becoming reactive. Men feel safe with her, but also challenged, because she doesn't need to win arguments. She needs alignment. And when alignment isn't there, she doesn't beg, she lets go. That ability to walk away calmly is one of the most attractive traits a woman can have. This woman doesn't compete with other women. She's not threatened by youth or beauty. She understands that attraction is not a race, it's resonance. And when a man feels resonance with a woman, comparison disappears. She carries herself with softness, not submission. She can be warm without being available to everyone. She can be kind without being easily consumed. Her femininity is not performative, it's embodied. It shows in her voice, her pace, her eye contact, and her stillness. Stillness is powerful. A woman who is comfortable in silence unsettles men who are used to noise. She doesn't fill every gap with words. She doesn't explain herself to death. She lets moments breathe. And in that space, men project meaning, curiosity, and desire. This vibe is also deeply rooted in independence. Not the aggressive, I don't need anyone kind, but the quiet knowing that her life is full. She has routines, she has interests, she has a sense of self that existed long before any man showed up. So when she chooses a man, it feels like a choice, not a necessity. And men can tell the difference immediately. She is emotionally regulated. That doesn't mean she doesn't feel deeply. It means she doesn't explode emotionally. She doesn't use emotions as weapons. She expresses disappointment without drama. She communicates needs without blame. And that level of emotional intelligence feels rare, especially to men who have experienced chaos disguised as passion. There is also something else, something subtle but undeniable. She doesn't try to be desirable. She assumes she is. That assumption changes everything. Her body language isn't asking for approval. Her energy isn't searching for reassurance. She's not constantly checking how she's being perceived. And because she's not focused on being chosen, she becomes magnetic. Men sense when a woman's self-worth is internally anchored. This woman also understands polarity. She allows men to lead without surrendering her power. She receives without guilt. She appreciates effort without overpraising. She doesn't micromanage masculine energy. She allows it to rise naturally, and men rise around her. Because she doesn't shame men for being men. She doesn't belittle strength. She doesn't confuse control with leadership. She understands the difference between dominance and security. And that understanding makes men feel respected. Respect is a powerful aphrodisiac. Her standards are high, but they are quiet. She doesn't announce what she won't tolerate. She simply doesn't tolerate it. There's no lecture, no emotional scene, just a shift in access. And when access is removed without drama, men feel the loss deeply. This vibe also comes from lived experience. She has been disappointed. She has loved and lost. She has seen behind the curtain. And instead of becoming bitter, she became discerning. Bitterness repels, discernment attracts. She doesn't punish new men for old wounds, but she doesn't ignore red flags either. She trusts herself, and self-trust is deeply attractive because it signals emotional safety. Men know that with her, they won't be constantly tested, suspected, or interrogated. They will be met as they are, but expected to show up fully. And here's the part many people don't like to hear. This vibe cannot be faked. You can't pretend to be grounded. You can't act your way into emotional maturity. You can't rehearse self-respect. It's built through self-work, through choosing yourself repeatedly, through walking away when it's uncomfortable, through sitting alone without collapsing into loneliness, through knowing that your value does not decrease when someone doesn't choose you. Older women who have this vibe didn't wake up one day and magically have it. They earned it. Through reflection, through boundaries, through healing, through self-awareness, and men can feel that history in her presence. She doesn't need constant reassurance because she reassures herself. She doesn't cling because she trusts life. She doesn't manipulate because she believes what's meant for her won't require games. And that belief changes how she moves. Men are drawn to her because she feels like peace, but not boredom, like depth, but not heaviness, like softness, but not weakness. She feels like home without feeling like obligation. And in a world full of noise, performance, and insecurity, that kind of woman stands out without trying. Not because she is older, but because she is rooted. And that is the vibe men are drawn to, whether they admit it or not. She also understands timing in a way younger energy often doesn't. She knows when to speak and when silence will do more. She doesn't panic when things slow down. She doesn't interpret space as rejection. She understands that real connection breathes, and that understanding removes pressure from men, which paradoxically pulls them closer. Men are constantly evaluated by society, by work, by expectations. When they are around a woman who doesn't constantly measure them, correct them, or try to reshape them, something inside them relaxes. This woman doesn't mother men. She doesn't manage their emotions. She doesn't overfunction in relationships. She allows men to show up as adults. And men rise when they are treated like capable adults. Her conversations have depth, but they're not heavy. She can talk about life, loss, ambition, desire, and still laugh easily. She doesn't take herself too seriously. She has perspective. She's seen enough to know what actually matters and what doesn't deserve emotional energy. That perspective is attractive because it feels stabilizing. She doesn't chase sparks. She understands that fireworks burn fast. She's drawn to steady flames. And men who are tired of intensity without intimacy feel seen by her. They feel understood without being dissected. This woman is also comfortable with her sensuality, but it's not loud. It's subtle. It's in the way she moves, the way she listens, the way she pauses before responding. Her sensuality is not for attention. It's a natural extension of being embodied in herself. Men sense when a woman is present in her body instead of living in her anxiety. She doesn't dress to compete. She dresses to express. She knows what flatters her, but more importantly, she knows who she is. And that self-knowledge creates coherence between her inner world and outer presence. There's no disconnect, no overcompensation. Men trust women who feel internally aligned. She also doesn't rush labels. She's not trying to define the connection prematurely. She's comfortable letting a man reveal himself over time. And because she's not pushing for certainty, men feel free to invest organically. Pressure kills desire. Freedom fuels it. She has learned that attraction grows in safety, not surveillance. So she observes more than she interrogates. She notices patterns instead of chasing promises. She values consistency over intensity. And because she values consistency, she attracts men who are capable of it. This woman also knows how to receive. Compliments don't embarrass her. Care doesn't make her suspicious. Effort doesn't make her uncomfortable. She doesn't block intimacy by pretending she doesn't need anyone. She allows herself to be chosen without losing herself. That balance is rare. She doesn't collapse into a relationship, and she doesn't stand outside of it with crossed arms either. She participates fully but consciously, and men feel that presence as grounding, not consuming. She's also deeply aware of her nervous system. She doesn't confuse anxiety with chemistry. She doesn't chase emotional highs. She knows that peace can feel unfamiliar if you've been addicted to chaos, and she's done the work to rewire that. Men who are healing, maturing, or simply tired of drama are instinctively drawn to that energy. She doesn't need to announce her standards because her life reflects them. Her schedule, her friendships, her self-care, her boundaries all communicate what she expects. Men adapt or fall away. She doesn't force outcomes. And when men fall away, she doesn't personalize it. She understands compatibility is not rejection. That emotional neutrality is powerful because it removes desperation from her energy. Desperation repels. Detachment attracts. Not cold detachment, but grounded non-attachment. She doesn't measure her worth by how much attention she gets. She measures it by how she feels when she's alone. And because she enjoys her own company, men feel like they're being invited into a full life, not asked to fill a void. That invitation feels different. She also doesn't rush physical intimacy to secure emotional connection. She understands pacing. She knows desire deepens when anticipation is allowed. She's comfortable saying no without guilt and yes without fear. Men respect women who respect themselves. And respect is what sustains attraction long after novelty fades. She's not trying to prove she's low maintenance. She's not performing coolness. She allows herself to have needs, but she expresses them cleanly, without ultimatums, without emotional manipulation. That clarity feels refreshing. She doesn't compete with a man's mission. She respects it, but she doesn't orbit around it either. She has her own direction, and that parallel movement creates polarity instead of dependence. Men are drawn to women who walk beside them, not behind them, and not ahead of them pulling. This vibe is calm, but it's not passive. It's confident without being confrontational. It's soft without being weak. It's open without being porous. And when a man encounters this energy, something shifts in how he relates to women as a whole, because he realizes attraction doesn't have to be chaotic. Desire doesn't have to hurt. Connection doesn't have to feel unstable. He feels seen, but not smothered. Desired, but not pressured. Accepted, but still inspired to rise. And that combination keeps pulling him back again and again, because over time he starts to associate her presence with regulation. His nervous system calms around her. Conversations don't feel like landmines. Silence doesn't feel awkward. Disagreements don't feel like threats. And that sense of emotional safety becomes addictive, especially for men who have lived in constant tension. She doesn't escalate conflict. She doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't collapse into tears to be validated. She stays centered. And that centeredness subtly teaches men how to regulate themselves too. This woman doesn't confuse emotional expression with emotional dumping. She knows how to share without overwhelming. She knows how to listen without absorbing. Her emotional boundaries are clean, and men feel that cleanliness as relief. She also doesn't seek control through closeness. She understands that closeness that suffocates eventually repels. So she gives space without disappearing. She stays connected without clinging. That balance is magnetic. She doesn't compete for a man's attention with other women. She competes with his peace. And when a man realizes that life feels calmer, clearer, and more grounded with her in it, the choice becomes obvious. She also has a quiet confidence in her desirability. She doesn't fish for compliments. She doesn't compare herself to younger women. She understands that beauty evolves and that presence outlasts appearance. Men who are emotionally intelligent sense when a woman is comfortable aging. They feel the absence of insecurity, and that absence creates attraction, not decline. She laughs easily, not performative laughter, but real amusement. She has humor that comes from perspective, not sarcasm. She doesn't weaponize wit. She uses it to connect. This woman also knows how to leave, and that might be one of her most powerful traits. She doesn't threaten to walk away. She simply does when alignment disappears. No dramatic speeches, no attempts to be remembered, just dignity. Men never forget women who leave with dignity, because that kind of exit forces reflection. It lingers, it echoes. She doesn't overstay where she is not valued. She doesn't chase closure. She trusts that clarity reveals itself with time, and that trust makes her feel emotionally sovereign. Men are drawn to women who belong to themselves. She doesn't abandon herself to keep a connection. She doesn't shrink to be chosen. She doesn't tolerate inconsistency to avoid loneliness. And because she is willing to lose what is misaligned, she attracts what is aligned. Her presence carries an unspoken message. I am okay either way. That message removes pressure from men, but also raises the bar. Because when a woman doesn't need you, choosing you becomes meaningful. She also understands that attraction is not created through proving value, but through allowing discovery. She doesn't reveal everything at once. She doesn't over-explain her past. She lets curiosity unfold naturally. Mystery doesn't mean secrecy. It means pacing. And pacing is something emotionally mature women understand deeply. She is grounded in her body. She breathes deeply. She moves slowly. She isn't rushing through moments. And that somatic presence affects men on a primal level. Their bodies respond before their minds do. Men are not just attracted mentally. They are attracted energetically. This woman's energy says, there is no urgency here. And in a world addicted to urgency, that calm feels like oxygen. She doesn't dramatize emotions. She doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. She doesn't seek to be needed. She seeks mutuality. And mutuality creates desire that lasts. She also doesn't punish men for mistakes. She observes patterns instead of reacting to single moments. She understands that consistency reveals character, not perfection. Men feel less defensive around her because they are not constantly being judged. They are being seen. And being seen without being attacked creates trust. She also knows when not to engage. She doesn't attend every argument she's invited to. She doesn't chase explanations from emotionally unavailable men. She doesn't waste energy on confusion. Clarity is her standard, and because she doesn't tolerate ambiguity for long, men either step up or step away. She doesn't force outcomes. She allows truth to surface. Her life is structured in a way that reflects self-respect. Sleep matters, health matters, time matters, and men subconsciously read those cues. They feel that being close to her requires a certain level of intentionality. This woman doesn't beg men to rise. Her presence demands it, not through pressure, but through contrast. Because once a man experiences this level of grounded feminine energy, everything else starts to feel chaotic, noisy, and draining. He may not have the language for it, but he feels it in his body. And that feeling keeps drawing him back. So when men are drawn to older women with this vibe, it's not because she is older. It's because she has finished chasing, finished proving, finished auditioning, finished negotiating her worth. She has made peace with herself, and that peace radiates outward. Men don't fall for her looks alone. They fall for how they feel in her presence, calm, seen, respected, grounded, inspired to be better without being told to change. She is not trying to be unforgettable. She simply is. Because she knows this truth deeply. Attraction is not created by effort, youth, or intensity. It's created by self-trust, emotional depth, and the courage to walk away from what doesn't honor you. And when a woman embodies that, age becomes irrelevant. Competition disappears. Validation becomes unnecessary. She becomes the standard, not because she demands it, but because she lives it.